Hello. Please be reminded that our webinar will start soon. In the meantime, please make sure your internet connection is stable and that your audio is working properly. In case your problem remains or facing other issues, please communicate through chat system. Thank you so much. Our webinar will start now, and thank you so much for joining our webinar. My name is Ayaka. I'm one of the business coordinators at Quartec Consulting, and I'll be your host today. Here are some reminders of today's webinar. We do not encourage attendees to videotape or record this webinar and disclose it to outside parties. However, we will provide you a personal link to the recording of the session after the event, which you may use for personal use. Please also note that participants' microphones are muted. You can communicate your questions or problem through the chat system. And in order to have the best experience of the webinar, please make sure that you have a stable internet connection and make sure your audio settings are set properly. Zoom also provides you with the function to check your speaker at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Wait a second. I think the screen is not working. Okay. Here is today's agenda. We will go through 3 topics. First one will be registration requirements for medical devices in ASEAN, and this will be presented by Irene. And second topic will be authorized representative importer and distributors' responsibilities in ASEAN. And lastly, this will be presented by Eve. And lastly, we will go through post-market surveillance in ASEAN. And before we start the agenda, let me briefly introduce Quartec to you. Quartec is a medical device consulting company specialized in ASEAN nations. So we provide our services in the map in the local offices showing the map. And we started in the year of 2000, and we have 20 years of experience with more than 1,000 customers. And here are the services that Quartec can offer. Of course, one of them is medical device product registration in order market, and Quartec is also CRO. Therefore, we can assist in conducting necessary clinical trials. And for this purpose, Quartec cooperates with 26 hospitals and has obtained good clinical practice inspection in global. And at the same time, Quartec also serves you as local authorized representative. And besides, we also provide medical writing services, commercial contacts, and distributors of medical devices. We also provide monthly newsletter of regulation update. If this is your interest, please contact us. And now, without further ado, we turn the time over to Irene to start the session. And let me.
Or it's okay. Directly yours.
Oh, okay. Do you wanna?
Yeah, thanks for Minamoto-san's introduction. So I will take over the next session. So I will change the pointer. So hope everyone can see my pointer. Yes. So because today we are going to have a 3 session. Basically, the first session, I just would like to update about the regulatory requirements in ASEAN countries. Okay, So just refresh quickly for everyone. Basically, the ASEAN medical device requirement is based on the AMDD. AMDD. And as you know, AMDD is all based in the GHTF guidance. So you can see, according to the GHTF guidance, have the conformity assessment procedure. Basically, the manufacturer must have ISO 13485, which also required by most of the ASEAN authority. And then definitely the post-market surveillance plan or procedure must be prepared when we submit. And we also need to provide a declaration of conformity to ensure our products is following which harmonized international standards. The other essential documents also we call the essential principle for safety and performance. Most of the authority reviewer will start from this document. So according to this document and also the risk management report, reviewer will further refer to the technical document, so which is STED company explained in the GHTF guidance. And the classification in GHTF guidance is Class A to Class D, from the lowest to highest. Also have a lot of guidance about the post-market surveillance guidance. So as you know, for the ASEAN AMDD, 10 member states has agreements to implement and follow the AMDD since November 2014. They signed the agreement. And then according to the timeline, they should successfully adoptions or implementations of AMDD this year. So which you can see there are so many updates, especially in Philippines, in Thai, and also Vietnam and other ASEAN countries. So later I will update. So for the AMDD, basically the structures of the regulation is all follow the GHTF. The only difference, slightly different, is like technical documents. In ASEAN, we call it the common submission dossier template. But the contents and the most of the document is really similar to GHTF countries, GHTF guidance. Just for quickly for you to understand what is the structures of AMDD. Okay. So here is the table. Maybe some of you already seen it before, but I updated according to the updated regulations in this ASEAN country. Here we list 6 countries where quartet located, and also is the, I think, is the biggest market in the ASEAN countries. Yes. So for the AMDD, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia already fully adoptions and already placed in enforce all the regulations already. So if you want to know more about the AMDD, definitely you can directly refer to the AMDD directive, but you also can visit the Singapore's HSA authorities websites. They have more guidance and is easy or more comprehensive to understand how the regulation required for the medical device. But later I will share more about the Philippines and the Thailand, because Philippines has a big change in this year. Philippines authority PFDA officially implement the phase 1 of the new regulation. So this new regulation has been announced in 2018, and till this year's PFDA start the phase 1. And for Thai, they are the Thai FDA already announced the new regulations, but not yet really implemented, and not exactly timeline for the implement date. However, Thai FDA recently, in this year, they announced or issued lots of the announcement or guidance how the product should be classified according to the AMDD's or what product should be regulated into the notify or license, not always general medical device anymore. So later I will explain more and show you more information. But here just for you as an update. And in Vietnam, definitely already implement the new regulations complies with the AMDD. Is a Decree 36. However, it's only for Class A. Still Class B, C, D, Ministry of Health postponed the implementation date till January 2022. So currently for the BCD, it still depends on we need to follow the Circular 30, which is all regulation for the import permit. So for the BCD, if the products not meet the scope of these 49 types of devices, then no need any import permit. We just need to have a classifications later from a third party qualified by the MOH. Then the product is free to import to the Vietnam right now. Yes. Okay. So other more information just for your reference. And then in the section 2, definitely Eve will explain more. In each country, in most of the ASEAN country, the authority requests the local entity, maybe have some qualification, can do the product registration. The product registration cannot be done by the overseas manufacturer, only local entity. So here I list the names the authority used for the party who can do the product registration. In Singapore, it calls registration. And registration no need to comply with any other qualifications or establishment license, as long as it is the registered company in Singapore. Yeah. And then for the Malaysia, it called authorized representative. So authorized representative also not only be the authorized representative, but also can do the import and the distributions. It depends on the scope of the good distribution practice for medical device. So in Malaysia, AR still need to comply with the GDPMD and get the establishment license. Indonesia, only the importer, which is the who would like to import the products must apply the product registration. So this importer should have the IPAC. IPAC is the distributor license. And currently, Indonesia MOH also implement the GDPMD guidance. So later on, Eve will explain more. Philippines right now, also the importer can do the product registration. And this importer should have a license to operate. Yes. Vietnam, definitely if still follow the old regulation, then only the importer can apply the import permit. But for Class A and afterwards 2022, the AR, like local entity, have a business scope. Their company registration business scope have the medical device import and distribution. Then it can be the AR and to apply the product registration already. And in Vietnam, for the Decree 36, the AR no need to do the import. This AR can same as Malaysia, can authorize to other distributor to do the import and the distribution. And Thai, still only the importer can do the product registration. And this importer also need to have an importer establishment license issued by Thai FDA. And this importer's exhibition license should have specific scope of the medical device intended to be imported. Yes. So even those ASEAN countries must follow the AMDD. I think AMDD is just the directive and principle, but each authority still will have establish their own guidance or own regulations for according to maybe local cultures or local use habit or clinical environment. to do the adjustment. Okay, so here just click about the FDA, the Philippines FDA. So they already implement the 2018 the new regulation. However, right now is the phase 1. So phase 1 means not all the medical device should follow this, but it depends on whether your products already registered in Philippines or not. So if your products not is the first time to enter the Philippines market, then you should refer this part. So if your product not yet registered in Philippines, then you need to follow the classification rule to classify your products is A, B, C, or D. Yes. If your product is class A, no matter how, you must to apply the CMD and before you enter Philippines markets. But if your product is class B to D, then we need to look at the registrable list. Because if your product is registrable in the registrable list, so then you must to apply the CMDR, is a certificate for medical device registration. If your product's not in the registrable list, which means it is a non-registrable, then your product, congratulations, can directly import by the importer who has LTO. So yeah, so right now it's phase 1. So only the registrable B, C, D products need to apply the CMDR. But if your products already registered in Philippines before and have a certificate for product registration or certificate of exemption, basically during the transition, still this certificate still valid. In another way to say is actually PFDA officer told us CPR will existing valid because CPR still can do the renew and then continue to use it. So you can see the CPR. If a class B to D, CPR still valid, then it's equal to the CMDR. But CPR is almost expired, then you can still apply for the renewal. And then after renewal, the PFDS still issue the CPR. But if it's class A, then CPR will equally as CMD, and yeah, it's a certificate for medical device notification. Yes. And then if it's almost expired, then you can apply the renew. But in the end, PFDA will release the CMD instead of CPR for class A. But if your product is COE, then you need to notice this deadline. So before November 3rd, 2021, your COE is still valid, equal to the CMD, and can directly use it to import. However, after this deadline, the November 3rd, 2021, you should apply the CMDN. So we encourage you to, if you have a COE for class A, then right now you should apply the CMDN. Yes, just in case. Okay. It's a little bit complicated, but anyway, if you have any questions, you can always come to me. Yeah. And this is the future plans in Thailand. Is a tentative their management rules. So right now, actually, the license notify and the general medical device is quite policy based. So afterward, they will use the risk based according to the AMDD. So for most of class 4 and class 3 will become licensed medical device, and class 2, class 3, and also some class 1 sterile will become notified. Oh, and the other class 1 will become like listing medical device. Yes, it's just e-listing. Yeah. So it will become like this management model. And here just share with you, I make a list. So these products right now, no matter in current regulation or new regulation, Basically, these products should be notified or licensed, and the Thai FDA has the product standards for these products. So now, if you want to import this product to Thai FDA, you must to apply the notify or license to before you import to Thai market. Yeah. However, in these years, Thai FDA announced more products to be included in license and notify. So here is the list. So you can see more therapeutic medical device included to be notified. And the license medical device, according to the AMDD risk, I think it's rule 678, 13, 40, 16. For example, like medical device with drug also need to be licensed. And notify is more like most of the active device will become a notify. But don't panic. Actually, Thai FDA officer told us right now they still follow the old regulation, because if a product doesn't have the product standard, actually Thai FDA doesn't know how to review it. So only when the specific products and with a specific product standard, then the Thai FDA will request this kind of product to be reviewed and submission and apply for the license or notify. So we will keep watch the announcement in the Thai FDA website, and then we'll share the immediately information with everyone. As long as you subscribe our quarter newsletter, I think every month you will get the most updated regulation from it. Okay, so I just quickly update the regulation in ASEAN country. So later on, if you have any question in the Q&A part, we can discuss. So I will hand over to Eve for the next section.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Eve. So thank you so much for attending the webinar today. Whether you are at a full stomach or empty one, it's okay. So we are going to finish this soon. So I lead the strategic and operational activities in import affairs at Quartech. So from Irene's impressive regulatory updates just now, you probably noticed that each member state in ASEAN have their own device regulation, despite that they are now called ASEAN. So difference exists when we register the device and after the competent authority gives approval. So my session today will be share an overview on the latter, which is the responsibilities taken on the authorized representative in ASEAN countries and how Quartech's knowledge and experience can benefit in both regulatory aspect and business one for your company. So please feel free to drop your question in the box if there is any question. So first of all, I will go with the GDP implementation countries. So currently, GDP guidance is published in these three countries, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And as to Singapore, as Irene mentioned earlier, the registrant is not required to have the GDP-ND. It can be a neutral third party holding the license. But the medical device wholesalers, importers, distributors, they will have to equip with the GDP-ND license. As to Malaysia, this is the GDP-ND guidance number, and acting as the authorized representative in Malaysia and in Indonesia, then we will have to comply and to get verified and audit in Malaysia every year and in Indonesia from time to time in order to keep holding the license and to keep the license validated. So in Malaysia, authorized representative, the responsibilities will be to have the documented procedures like SOP and personal training to workshops and to maintain the records mainly. As to Indonesia, currently the license, the medical device distributor, they are mandatory to have. It's called IPAC, as mentioned earlier. And this one will be audited by the Provincial Health Office, and which is already in implementation. And the GDP guidance is announced, but currently at voluntary basis. So for GDPMD, it will be audited by the Ministry of Health, and Quartec is set to have this audit and to comply with GDPMD by the end of this year. And just a quick note, for the Ministry of, for Indonesia, the IPAC, there are 5 scopes. So currently, they segmented all the devices into 5 scopes, which is active non-radiation, active radiation, non-active non-sterile, and non-active sterile. The last one is IVD. So if you want to register your device or you want to sell your device to Indonesia, the distributor or the authorized representative you appointed will have to have the corresponding scope in order to register or to sell those medical devices. And as to the countries I didn't mention earlier, currently the GDPMD guidance is not in place yet. And for Vietnam, currently there is no such requirement onto the license holder or the distributor as to what kind of guidance or what kind of criteria they will have to be met. But for Thailand and the Philippines, there is a license. I mean, each of the country, they have their own license when you set up the company and when you file the product registration with the competent authority. In Thailand, it is establishment license, and in this license, you will have to include the specialty scope of the devices you intend to register or to import with Thai FDA first. Before that, you can actually do the product registration or import that device. And the specialty scope is based on the Universal Medical Device Nomenclature System, UMDN code. So for example, like Quartec, currently we have the dentistry, and we have surgery, we have nursing service, physical medicine, and so on, so that we get to register the medical devices fall into those categories. And the other one is Philippines. And in Philippines, all the establishment who wants to distribute or to register a medical device, they will have to have a license called license to operate. We usually just call it LTO. And this one, we will have to update the source of medical devices we register or we represent currently every year to Thai FDA. And by reporting the source of medical device, we will have to update the legal manufacturer's ISO certificate, ISO 13485 certificate, and the valid letter of authorization. So we talk about the responsibilities of the authorized representative. And now the more important question is how our clients can import or to sell their devices into ASEAN country. And how are we able to benefit your business by acting as a third party in between. So in Malaysia and in Singapore, as well as Vietnam. Vietnam is a bit complicated now, as mentioned by Irene earlier, that currently there is a regulatory transition there. So for new regulation, which is called Decree number 36, it is applicable. to use the letter of authorization, same as Malaysia and Singapore, so that the distributor can directly import the medical device, while the authorized representative will just manage the license, the products, and be the window with the competent authority. So as to how, I will briefly give you the information. Like for example, like Singapore, everything is done online. We call Singapore Medical Device Register, SMDR. So once the distributor is being confirmed, the authorized rep can register your distributor onto this platform so that the distributor can directly import the devices. As to Malaysia and Vietnam, the authorized representative will have to issue a letter of authorization to your distributor. The distributor can use that letter to import, by showing to the custom. And what is Quotex authorization process? Because we are a third party, and every authorization or the distributor we authorize is based on our clients, our principals' written instruction. So once we receive the notice from the principal, then we will have to ask like a letter of declaration first as a proof of evidence, and coming from the responsible person at the principal. And upon the receipt of that, we will have an internal procedure protocol before issuing the letter of authorization to your appointed distributor. And distributor can place order and to import directly from the principal. And what Quotech will do is we will maintain the authorization record and the traceability record of the products, which includes the quantity imported. And if it is a high risk implantable medical device, we will have to have the serial number and the healthcare facilities that it is sold to. And this whole process will take around a week. So the countries I didn't mention earlier, it's a little bit tricky. So acting as the authorized rep in Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam with Circular 30, which is the previous regulation. So in these 4 countries, we will have the authorized rep will have to do importation. So what does it mean though? So as the importer will have to show the shipping documents at the customs, so to process the custom clearance. So all documents, including commercial invoice, packing list, and AOA bill, they will all have to address to your authorized representative so that they can process it. And sometimes custom, they will request a sales contract or purchase order, or even a remittance receipt as a proof of evidence, so that they can verify with the pricing or the amount on the invoice in order to charge the import tax. So that means the order placement, the goods payment, and the custom clearance will have to go through the authorized representative in these 4 countries. And as I mentioned earlier, all the documents will have to address to your authorized representative for custom clearance purpose. And before I'm going to the next one, I also want to mention that in Thailand, there is a particular procedure that the authorized representative will have to perform first. So the Thai Royal Customs, they will require a license per invoice, LPI, at clearance. And please worry not, this license per invoice is to stipulate the shipment details, such as the items to be imported, the quantity imported, and to verify with the commercial invoice. And it usually just took custom 1 to 2 working days before your authorized representative can have this license per invoice so that they can process the custom clearance. Yes, and this responsibility will have to be done by your authorized representative as well. So after the custom clearance, the goods, where does it go though? So in Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam, because currently there is no GDP MD guidance in place, so goods can be directly transported to your distributor. But for Indonesia, as I mentioned earlier, they have IPAC, they have upcoming GDP MD guidance. So in order to comply with the local regulations and rules, the imports will have to come to authorized representatives' warehouse first for inspection of the conformity and with the label before releasing it to the sub-distributor. So import sounds a little bit troublesome, and like Ari said, don't panic. We are here to provide solutions. So to think it logically, it is just order, placement, shipping, and payment. So Quartech, as the importer, we will handle the custom clearance part. So we assure our clients that things can be logically done and to be facilitated if we are your authorized representative in those 4 countries. So the order will go through Quartech. This is, we can be in copied, and we will issue the pro forma invoice to your distributor and to collect the payment from them before we give you the notice that we have received this amount, and this cost of goods will be paid in the end after all the import process is done. It is done. Yes, and for all the shipping documents, it will have to be addressed to Quartech so that we can process them correctly and smoothly with the custom, so to deliver the goods to your distributor. And after all is done, we will transfer the amount, the cost of goods, back to principal. But this is just currently how the procedure we are running in these 4 countries, and it can always be adjusted based on your business deal or agreement with the distributor. And just a kind notice, usually to perform this flow, usually you will take 3 parties to be involved, and it can take like multiple times of discussion before finalizing it that is suitable for you and your distributor. So usually we would recommend our clients to inform us once they have confirmed their distributor, so that we can start this discussion right away. And usually it will take at least 1 month or 2 months to finalize it. So as I mentioned earlier, the AR's responsibility when it meets the import condition and the GDP in place, it will become a little bit more work and extra work for the authorized representative, because they will have to comply the local regulations in order to keep the goods valid, in order to keep the license valid, and to also to meet the local regulation and the rules. So I think like I already mentioned all of this earlier. So in Indonesia, the distributor who act as the authorized rep will have to ensure the safety and quality of the goods imported. Yes, so that means the goods will have to come through authorized representative first for inspection. And if there is any non-conformity being found for the imports, the authorized rep will have to set an area, acceptance area and the reject area, so that to distinguish the products that is ready and legal to sell, that is okay to sell. Yes. And we also, the authorized representative also have to provide the storage, the warehouse that meets the condition of each medical device. So here I would like to share like an overview of what we have just discussed and some condition to the license. So how to choose your authorized representative in these countries, whether you choose a third party or you choose the distributor, it is quite essential on how you are going to maintain the license, your own brand, or the market in the future. So I list them down from the most strict one is Indonesia on the left. Yes, and the most loose one is Thailand on the right. Did I say it right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, for Indonesia, Malaysia, they have the GDP guidance in place, and as the authorized representative, they will have to comply with the obligation. But these two countries, the difference is that Indonesia you will have to import, but Malaysia you don't. So that's why the goods will have to come through the authorized representative's warehouse in Indonesia. For Philippines and Thailand, although there is no GDP obligation, but as part of the requirement in the establishment license, the product source will have to be updated, and the medical device category will have to be updated too. So I put them kind of like, yes, we have to comply. And Singapore and Vietnam, currently, the authorized representative does not have the GDP obligation. As to import, currently, Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam, the old regulation, Circular 30. And the last one is Thailand, that the authorized representative will have to perform import. As to traceability, there is no question that Indonesia and Malaysia, the authorized representative will have to comply. And just for the authorized representative can keep on tap on the high-risk implants, high-risk medical device and implantable medical device. Usually, Quotech, we will ask our clients to provide us this information so that we can give the correct information and timely information if the competent authority request, such as the post-marketing surveillance activity happens in the region. Now, with the license conditions, so can I transfer the license in these countries? For Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Vietnam, yes. But for Indonesia and Thailand, the license is not transferable. So license will have to, the product, if you want to change the license holder, your authorized representative, you will have to go through the product registration again. And if you want to go through the product registration again, there is some certain condition, as I mentioned in the next column. So can one product have multiple distributors? Can I authorize multiple authorized representative or distributors to register our products to sell? So in Vietnam and Thailand, currently the regulation is loose based on their current regulation, the guidance. And for Singapore and Philippines, one product name can only have one distributor. One product name, one authorized representative, or the distributor. For Malaysia, it is also one product, one authorized representative. But the difference lies in between is that Philippines and Singapore, if the same product, you choose a different name, different product name, then you get to register with another license. But with Malaysia, because there will be product code concerned, like identifier concerned. So if all the technical dossier, they show the product code, the identifier, the specification that is mentioned at registration, the NDA, Medical Device Authority, they will question you and saying that this product has been registered before, so that registering a second time will be difficult. So in Malaysia, it is also tricky if we want to register one product with multiple authorized representative. And for Indonesia, this is the most strict one, because the branded device coming from the same legal manufacturer can only be a representative and to be registered by one authorized representative. So please let me give you an example. For example, like in cardiovascular category in Indonesia, that they have the medical device category similar to Taiwan and similar to United States, that they have the category. And if in cardiovascular category, Cortec register Apple Watch, which has the ECG function. That means it is a medical device, and we register in this category. So if a second generation, like Apple Watch Gen 2, or any device coming from Apple that fall into cardiovascular category, it can only be registered by Cortec. And with this condition of the brand name, with the legal manufacturer, and with the authorized representative, the license is not transferable in Indonesia. So in case of changing the authorized representative in Indonesia, the new appointee will have to wait out the expiry of existing license, or to negotiate with the current license holder to have the license canceled first before they can file the product registration again. So the last slide is how we can benefit your company, both in regulatory aspect and the business one. So for the regulatory aspect, Cortec can help you to maintain the products and licenses effortlessly across ASEAN. So we have our own company set up in each of these countries, and we have our full-time and professional staff that is with technical background to help you to reach this goal, so that we can help monitor the product registration and to keep track on the generation, the device generation that we have registered, and in case that you have a new product launch or you need a regulatory assessment for any proposed changes, we can help. And for regulatory compliance, of course. So we have our local office there, and we contact with the competent authority very often, like every week. So we get to have the timely update over the regulation, so to provide like a proper assessment for your consideration in case of any regulatory actions that you needed. And for audit support. So in case requested by the competent authorities, we can give the product information and document in time, and we can also cooperate with them for any preventive or corrective action taken to mitigate the risk posed by the device. For the vigilance support, we can immediately inform our principals about the complaint, the adverse event coming from the healthcare authorities or professionals or users relating to the devices, so that proper action can be decided, or the decision can be decided and proper action can be performed. As to the business aspect, choosing Cortec, appointing a third party to hold a license will help you to remain flexible in your marketing strategy. So you can avoid a conflict of interest, because some distributors, they probably have same product, the same type of product coming from different sources, from China, from Europe, from Japan, so that they have their own strategy of selling the devices into their own sales channel. So choosing a third party will help you to remain flexible, because our goal, like I said, mentioned here, we decide independently to your best interest. Yes. So authorizing us as your representative, we can give either the letter of authorization to your distributor or help you to import to the buyer. And also, appointing a third-party representative can avoid unnecessary complications, expense, and discontentment or stress later. Because changing your authorized representative, sometimes it will involve the negotiation to have the license or have the brand back, and reprinting all the labels or to file a change notification first. It costs money and time. So Cortec is here to help you to avoid this. And the last one is control your own brand. So it is strategically prudent to appoint independent representative so that this can be avoided. And as to what Cortec has to help you, is like every office that we set up is independent and directly owned. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we have like a regulatory experts and timely updates. And the last one is we understand how important is your sensitive information and your product confidential secrets. So we have strict control over the record retention and the document control procedure. So that will be my session today. Thank you very much. If you have any question, please feel free to leave us a message.
And I would like to hand the time over to Zuhui. Please,
Yes. 只会
Zuhui, can you share your screen? And I think your microphone is muted.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear us? Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes, most of our audience are muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so please go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Jay from Quantec Malaysia, and I take this chance to share with all of you the basic information of post-market surveillance of medical device in ASEAN. So in previous section, Irene and Eve already introduced about the pre-market preparation and also the related requirement. So how about post-market? And post-market issue is getting more and more attention in global and as well as ASEAN country. Okay, so this is my outline. I will roughly introduce the definition of post-market surveillance, and then is the PMS regulation per country in ASEAN. So for the definition of post-market surveillance, I think most of you already have the basic concept. So PMS were used as tracking system, reporting of device malfunction, serious injury or death. Here we show you the content in EU, India, and also US FDA. The difference between MDR and FDA is MDR mention who to do it and also the purpose. Okay, for AMDD, ASEAN Medical Device Directive, have a section for post-market alert system, PMS. This section also point out that keeping proper and appropriate traceability record is an important component of ensuring the quality medical device in the market. So beside that, adverse event reporting, field safety corrective action, also mentioned in AMDD. For the timeline of reporting, AMDD lists out 3 different timelines under 3 different situations for all the ASEAN countries as a reference. So this is for both general medical device and in vitro IVD device. Then this is related with public health. This is the timeline is in 48 hours and lead to death or a serious deterioration of this is not better than 10 days, and this is might lead to death or serious deterioration. This is not better than 30 days. And for follow-up or final report is within 30 days of initial report. So next is we introduce the PMS regulation in some of the ASEAN countries. Here we compare 6 ASEAN countries which partner have our own office there. So, and we can provide the local service for all of you, like what is mentioned just now. And you can see that so far, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia already have complete regulation or guidance for adverse event reporting, FSCA, and also recall. For Thailand, their regulation has a section to talk about adverse event reporting and FSCA. And then, but for their recall, is just only roughly mentioned under FSCA, no specific section to talk about recall. For Philippines and Vietnam, so far their regulation is only for the recall handling. They don't have any about adverse event and FSCA. Then about the AE reporting criteria. So let's look at the general medical device. They have 3 basic reporting criteria listed and considered as a reportable AE covered by these 4 countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. Then, so this is the 3 criteria. Let us roughly to go through these 3 basic criteria. An incident has occurred. The medical device associated with the incident. The incident lead to one of the following outcome. So this is the following outcome. So that if any incident is fulfilled, these 3 criteria, we must to make reporting to the authority. Okay, now let me share with you the timeline, time frame for AE reporting. So here is the same 6 countries, and then for related with the public health, Singapore is not later than 48 hours, and Malaysia is within 48 hours, and Indonesia is not more than 48 hours. For Thailand is immediately or not later than 48 hours. For Philippines and Vietnam, they don't have a specific timeline for this. And then for lead to the death or serious deterioration. This is 10 days, 10 days, 10 days, immediately or 10 days, and none for this Philippines and Vietnam. Might lead to the death or serious deterioration. This is 30 days. And same Philippines and Vietnam is not Thailand. And for the final reporting or follow-up reporting, for Singapore is 30 days, within 30 days of the initial report. And for Malaysia, it is also within 30 days after you submit the initial report. For Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam, not specific about this. And then for Thailand, also 30 days. Until here, I guess all of you already noticed that although they use the different word, yes, but all of them actually is follow the LDP direction. Yeah, it's 28 hours, 10 days or 30 days, as I mentioned previously. Then for the communication, Singapore can be inform the authority by email, fax, or postal mail, and Malaysia is email. Indonesia also email. For Thailand is email, fax, or postal mail, and Philippines is mail. Vietnam didn't mention about this. Then they have the relay form need to submit to the authority, and also mention in the regulation. Then next is about the time frame of FSCA reporting. So they have preliminary report and also the follow-up final report. For Singapore, if this is effect in Singapore, you need to make a report before the initiation. Yes. And if this is not effect in Singapore, then you can report this within 30 days. And for Malaysia, it's before the initiation, and Indonesia did not specify about this. For Thailand, it's within 48 hours of implementation. About the follow-up final report, for Singapore, it's 21 days after the initiation, and for Malaysia, it's within the 30 days after completion, and Indonesia didn't specify about this, and Thailand is within 21 days after initiation. So here I have some example condition to perform FSCA. For example, the recall you will conduct, and then the device modification due to the potential non-conformity, medical device exchange, and the return of the medical device to its product owner. Then is medical device destruction, replacement of the medical device. Okay. Then the last one is about recall reporting time frame. So same, they have initial report and follow-up final report. For Singapore is within 24 hours, and for Malaysia they have class 1, class 2, and class 3. Class 1 is the highest risk, within 48 hours, and the low risk is 5 days, medium is 3 days. Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam didn't specify about this, but for Thailand, this is covered under FSCA as I mentioned before. And for Philippines also have classified as class 1, 2, and 3, but all of them are within 48 hours. Then is about the follow-up final report. Singapore is within 21 days, Malaysia is 30 days, and then Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam didn't mention about this. For Philippines, you can discuss with PFDA when is the good time to report about this. So here you can notice that if any recall happen, Singapore is the most urgent one because they are 24 hours. Still, we need to, do it fast. And the other so far is 48 hours. Okay. Then for Singapore, no matter what kind of situation, you need to report in 24 hours. And then the date of recall level, they have a consumer or user, retail, wholesaler or distributor. Okay, so before I end my presentation, I would like to share with you the general reporting flow chart. So once the manufacturer occurred, the incident happened, no matter you need to go for adverse event reporting or FSCA reporting, or maybe recall reporting, you need to inform of your country AR, which marketing your device. So then the local AR, they will according to the situation and advise you what kind of information and documents you need to submit together when they report to the authority. The local AR will keep communicate with the authority and feedback to you if they have any. In the same time, you need to request your distributor to take action in the market according to your instruction. So for here, some of the country, maybe your local AR and the distributor are the same company. Then the hospital, clinic, and user, they will follow the instruction provided by the distributor. Then they will complete the requirement and then to inform the distributor. Then distributor need to confirm the action is done and then report to the manufacturer. Manufacturer, after they receive the information from distributor, they already confirm this is already done. They need to let the country AR to know about this, and then we will need to provide the related information or maybe the document to the authority to have the follow-up report or maybe the final report. Then still the same, if the authority have any to feedback, so we will also let the manufacturer to know, and we are the window of manufacturer and authority to communicate. So here I just want to remind everyone, if any incident happen, please inform all your country AR to proceed with the above mentioned reporting within the mentioned timeline. So if you are not sure how to do it, please discuss with your related AR and they will advise you what to do and also how to do it. Like maybe you can inform if how to do. I'm not sure what to do in Malaysia right now. Okay, so my sharing is until here. If you have any question, later we can discuss in the Q&A section. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And for now, we would like to have a short Q&A session. Feel free to use the Q&A function to type out your questions, and then we will take a few minutes to answer.
I think we already typed the answers most of the questions. So here the latest one is, does having approval in either of the ASEAN countries help expedite the process in other? So basically, these ASEAN member states still be independent from each other. So some of our country will refer to the GHTF country approval, but not refer to the approval in any of ASEAN country. So there is no expedited route if you get the approval in Singapore or in Malaysia.
And the latest question, how is finance responsible for PMS?
Yeah, actually, PMS is not only responsible for manufacture. So like I say, it's because the product registration owner will be local entity, which is your AR. So your AR, and for example, in Singapore, also Singapore consider the real distributor and importer also be responsible for the PMS.
For Indonesia.
We have a question in the chat. For Indonesia, can you explain why license transfer is not possible?
The license transfer is not possible.
For Indonesia.
Actually, this rule is set by the Indonesia MOH. So actually, we don't know why. But as you know, the Indonesia is composite with thousands of islands. Actually, their territory is quite big, and some places is difficult to reach. So also difficult for the MOH to monitor if too many distributors import the same products. So that's why they set this like extremely strict rule. So only one product basically is the same brand name, same product type can be applied by one distributor, and a license cannot be transferred.
We have a new question here. Does foreign AE needs to be reported? If yes, this will be huge quantities.
Like Zihui's presentation, basically not all the AE need to be reportable. For example, in Malaysia, foreign AE need to be reportable. Actually, no need. If the foreign AE also related to the products already marketed in ASEAN country, then you need to consider whether it will cause any further activity. For example, FSN, field safety notice or recall. If yes, we still need to report. If not, then no need. But please still refer to each country's guidance because each country has a slightly difference in this.
I think we have another question here. For Thailand AE and FSCA, does it only apply to registered devices and not those with import permit or general devices?
It should apply to all devices already registered and marketed in Thailand. Yes.
Also,
Is there any
advantage to having FDA approval prior to apply for medical device?
Yes. Like I explained before, especially for Singapore, Malaysia, and right now Vietnam also for the new decree. If your products already have a United States FDA approval or EU or Japan or Australia or Canada, then the evaluation rule might be shorter. Yes.
And the latest question, my question is more for Malaysia. I think it was related to the foreign AE. So in case of Malaysia, still foreign AE doesn't need to be reported.
So like I say, it will impact to the products already placed in Malaysia. Then it needs and requires a further action. Then we need to report.
Any other questions? If no, I would like to round up this webinar. Thank you so much for your attendance. And before I finish this webinar, let me briefly announce that after this webinar, we will send you a short questionnaire. So please be kind to spend a few minutes to answer it and help us improve our webinar. And we would like to send a link to the video recording of today's session to those of you who give us some feedbacks. Wait, is this?
Later.
Yeah, later. We have some new questions, but like we will answer it later. And thank you so much for attending today. And we would like to finish this webinar. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.